Hello, hello, everybody. We'll do a quick sound. Okay, I think I fixed the mic problem. It's just going to be my crappy mic and not my good mic. So I really hope my crappy mic isn't crap, but can you guys hear me now? Let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay. So I guess my Yeti doesn't feel like working. But whatever. We'll use my I'm going to be using the microphone that's attached to my camera though, and it is not the best. So I hope it doesn't crap out on us, because that's why I typically don't use it, is because it craps out halfway through a stream. So anyway, I guess for the first like 4 minutes of my stream, I was talking to myself. So hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for coming back. Anyway, yeah, so I had originally popped on here early to test all my streaming equipment, and I guess I'm glad I did. Like I said, I'm in the middle of selling my house, so I can't leave like all the streaming equipment on my desk. So, like my mic, my laptop, my camera setup, I have to literally pack it away, which is why I've been kind of lazy about streaming. I've just been like, I don't have the energy to set it all up again. But today, I had to stream because hello. I can't not stream this. So the folks over at Derwent were kind enough to send these to me. I feel kind of bad because they sent these to me last week. But we were dealing with a lot of house sale stuff, and no, it hasn't sold yet, which is making it even harder, but I couldn't stream them. So either way, I do have the 72 count set. Now, most of you, if you've bought these before, you'll have this set here. I've always enjoyed them. For one big thing is I love that they use the chunky monkey style, as I call it, the signature Derwent style, that every pencil has except those crappy chromaflows. And then the Derwent drawing set, this 24 count set, I liked because it had a very autumnal, so it was one of my favorites to break out in the fall. But, they had hinted that they were going to expand the line, and they had done that survey saying, hey, how many of you would be interested in this? And that survey was not very long ago. And so they were already making these. They had to have been. There was no way they weren't. So, oh, sorry, Scout the Husky is in here with me, so she's probably going to howl in the background. She's in trouble. She ran away and ran through the fields this morning. But yeah, so they probably were already planning on it. They just tossed out a survey for fun. But here are their 72. Now, I have opened them because I did another video, since I'll be doing a review video, but I'll give you a peek. So here is the cover. Scout, no. I really do like the artwork on this one. It's really pretty. And I'm kind of curious because there's a lot of fur detail in here. So I'm really excited to try these out. But here we go. Now, one of my favorite features about Derwent pencils, especially in the tins at 72 count sets, is what I do when I'm using them. I put my lid here, pop one tray and stick it in the lid, and then I keep the other tray here. And then that way, there's no flimsy trays. So just a little handy trick if you have a 72 count set from Derwent. That's what I tend to do, which is also why I tend to leave them in these little cases. In fact, I'm really mad at myself for pulling some of my 72 count sets out of these, because it just makes it easier. But I mean, look at this. We have added reds, some more neutral colors, purples, we've got blues, tons more greens. Just from looking at the pencils, we're going to swatch. A lot more browns. I did notice when I was opening this, we got quite a few grays, so I'm a little nervous on the gray thing, especially because we only have 72 colors. And then also we have, these are going to be interesting. So Derwent is very consistent with their naming. So if you see a pencil called Oyster, whether it's in this set or another set, the color is usually the same, or close to it. So Oyster, that's a very, very light pink color, almost white, but you definitely see the pink. Arctic is a very, very light blue. And then they have their Chinese white. And in the drawing set, I'm not sure if many of you know this, but the Chinese white and the Derwent drawing set is top notch. One of the best white pencils, outside, of course, my favorite, the Prismacolor white. So it is a really good pencil. We're going to swatch all 72 today. Now I did create my little chart here. Oh, let's move some things over. So I created a chart. You can actually download this chart for free. It is in the description, but also our friend Nightbot will spam the link. You can always do a donation, don't have to. Now I am swatching right now in the order they came in the tin, but after this video, while I'm working on my review and everything, I'm actually going to put them in color family order and make a new chart, and I will just add that to the Ko-fi listing. So I like to keep everything on Ko-fi, coffee, whatever it's supposed to be called. It's just better. Everything's free. You just have the option to donate, and every donation is appreciated because they go towards things, like that I need to buy to review. So we are going to swatch, but first let me put Scout the Husky out so she doesn't howl our ears off. 1 second. Ready, I'm putting Scout out. Or in the hall. Okay, now here's the thing. With these pencils, they all came with a nice blunt tip. Now I know some people will be like, "Oh, that's inconvenient." No, this is actually good, and more manufacturers should ship their pencils with a blunt tip like this. Why? Because when they have them at sharpened tip, especially these came all the way from the UK, they get beaten up. So a blunt tip prevents it from breaking, but I love how thick the cores are on this. I'm going to adjust my focus just a smidgy. And then of course I love the fact that, this is Derwent. I'm just adjusting my focus so I don't want, there we go. So this is Derwent. So we have my favorite chunky monkey style. I was so mad when they came out with ChromaFlow and they were thin. I like these thick pencils. So I will probably need to do some sharpening though, because with that blunt edge right there, it just makes it a little harder. So yeah, we're gonna swatch in the order they came, and then I will make a family color chart later. Ooh, okay. Well, this sucks. I sharpened this one, but look. Uh, so much for the whole blunt tip thing. That'll be fun. Let's see if we can revive it. If not, I might have to throw it in my AF mat. Oh, it's actually clogged my sharpener now. Well, this is a great start to a stream. Haven't streamed in forever, and this is what happens. 1 sec. All right. Well, let's hope that's not a feature of all of mine, because let's just say this 72 count set, you can get it right now. Oh man. Okay, so I'm gonna have to reach out to Derwent. This champagne one just keeps breaking off. Like, it's literally breaking off every time inside my doll. So I'm gonna plug in my AF mat and just see if I can get it to fix itself. But I'm also gonna have to put myself on mute. But that is a bummer. Now, champagne, I don't think is in this set here. Is it? No, it's wheat. So yeah, I'll have to let my friends at Derwent know that I've had a pretty nasty one. But all right, let me mute you guys just real fast because I don't want to hurt your ear. Well, that is tragic. So to get this one to sharpen, I had to throw it in my AF mat. But look how many times it broke. Derwent, we're not off to a very good start, because I was very, very excited for these pencils, because this has always been the line of pencils that I've always said would possibly rival Prismacolor. Now that said, Prismacolor is notorious for breakage issues, so I guess we're matching them on that one. But considering these cost about 120 more than a set of 150 Prismas. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, a Tagal would work well too, but if you already have a core that is broken or cracked and having issues, the best way to fix that is either to go manually fix your pencil, which means heat it up gently and do a rolling technique to kind of roll that wax back together, or throw it in something like an AF mat. This one here in particular. Um, when you're having breakage on manual sharpeners, because the Dull 133 does not break a lot of pencils. But if you have something that's really delicate and breaking a lot, you want to put it in something like an AF mat instead, because the Dull and Tagal, both manual sharpeners, will keep breaking it. Now, is it going to break when I go to swatch this one? Excuse me. I guess we're going to find out right now. No, thank goodness. So, now that we can finally do some swatching, we will see how these work out. I am going to fill in and just kind of fade off at the end of the box, but the first half of the box will be filled in pretty well. This is a light color, you're not going to see it as well. But Derwent Drawing have always been really nice and soft, and they're about the only other pencil out there that I would actually call creamy, as opposed to, all of those other ones, where they call, people call them creamy or soft. To me, a creamy pencil is something that rivals whatchamacallit, Prismacolor. That is a creamy pencil. It's opaque. It is most definitely creamy. So that's my idea of it. I am going to try and not sharpen just for the sake of time, because we'll be here till the end of the day. Now, there's also this misconception that you must sharpen your pencils before you swatch them. It depends on a few factors. One, if you can feel like a film over the top of it, then yeah, you should probably sharpen it. But that tends to happen more with cheaper brands than expensive brands. So just keep that in mind. But I don't want to spend, all day sharpening 72 pencils. And had I had some time, I would have pre-sharpened. So now we're on mustard. I have these numbered right now just because, like I said, I'm going to go back and create a color family order for you guys. So I didn't want to sit here and write out the names. But these are nice and soft. So that's already a good start. But yeah, I am going to have to ask Derwent to replace that one. Then again, they did send these to me for free, so don't know if they will. Yeah, definitely please put them in caps if you ask a question, because we probably will have a lot of people in chat today. This is called gold. And then at the end of the stream, I will go through and star the ones that are already in the 24 count set. No, the open stock part is not open yet, to just like go fill it in. But, from a strategic standpoint, companies like this obviously are going to wait and hold off on open stock availability right away, because otherwise, well, there you go. But I'm very, very curious to see how this looks, like the whole shebang. The price right now varies. So like if you buy it from Cult Pens, it's just over $200. This is called Apricot. So it's just over $200 on Cult Pens, which you can order now. They have them in stock and they'll ship them. I did not look at Blick yet to see what they've got theirs listed at. But I actually prefer to buy my Derwent products just like this, from Cult Pens. They aren't that much more expensive and they're really good about quality control. And yeah, the shipping isn't bad. Like I remember when I ordered my ink tents from Cult Pens, I had them in like 4 days. So let's see. And then eventually you can also get them from Jackson's. So keep that in mind about Jackson's. They'll have them shipped to the US, but Jackson's lately or recently swapped to a US and UK site. They used to just have their UK site that would ship to the US, but they had to make some changes. It was a bummer for those of us who use Jackson's for watercolor because then certain watercolors I used to be able to get from them, I can't now on their US only site. I really hate that they did that, by the way. Oh, these are nice and soft. Okay. How do these compare to Color Soft? So the thing with Color Soft is Color Soft are very crumbly. They've always been very crumbly. They break very easily, but that's nothing new if you're a Prisma user. But I've never really sat and compared these a ton just because these had such a limited palette before, you know, the 24, whereas I had 72 Color Soft. But in terms of what is softer or creamier and more of a blending pencil than a layering pencil, then these would be better than the Color Soft. The Color Soft, believe it or not, are soft, but still require some layering. You can't just blend and smush. Like I'm sure you've seen the smush technique, as we all call it, with Prismacolors, where you literally just smash your colors together and call it a blend. You can't really do that with the Color Soft. It requires some more layering than it should, considering it's a wax-based pencil. But that's just one gal's opinion. I did do a video of, what was it? Prisma versus Color Soft. Did I do that one? Or did I do Chroma Flow versus Color Soft? I can't remember. I have so many versus videos I still gotta finish catching up on. Yeah, they will be cheaper from Blick than Cult pens, obviously, because you're not paying to import them from the UK. Let's see, Autumn Red. But like I said, so one thing I like about Derwent is when they use a name, that color is usually really close to any other set. So it's like nice and consistent, you know? Whereas like some companies will use the same name in a different line, but it's nowhere near the same color. And you're like, oh, what a tease. Okay. Hi, Emma. All right. So this is, I want to say Rioja? I don't know. And there are some skips in the numbering system. So I don't know if they're going to expand past 72 later or if they just wanted to be funny. Because there's skips in the numbering system with Colorsoft and they never expanded that. So don't get your hopes up. But the fact that they had put out that survey and then just were like, ta-da, here they are, tells me they were kind of already doing it anyway. They just wanted to double check. And thankfully, when they released these, they didn't do it like they did with a Chroma Flow, where they released them in very random countries just to test the waters. That wasn't annoying at all. Remember when they did that, I was like, wait, why are we doing this? We're just going to pick random countries and release them there. It was like they really weren't confident in that listing or that pencil at all. I like that one. Good skin tone colors. Light rust. Ooh, this will be nice for skin tones too. It's got a nice peachy thing going on here. I almost don't want to fill in the box all the way, but I am for you guys. But like I said, I'll go back and put these in color family order. Now, when someone says color family order, like keep in mind, my color family order may not be someone else's. So it's going to be my color family order. You should buy these. Sorry, I'm not gonna be the person that says don't. No, I'm just kidding. If you can't afford them, don't buy them. They are pretty pricey right now. But here's the thing, Derwent have always been more expensive than any other, brand. Their prices do eventually go down a little, but not like crazy. But then again, they are very consistent with their quality control, unlike my lovely Prismacolors, where it's like, I don't know what I'm getting this week. So, gotta give them that. Beaster. Yeah, I'd like to organize these for sure. And one thing I'm kind of curious to see is just, I have not looked at anyone else's videos because anytime I'm doing like a first impressions, I don't want to look at everyone else's. I know like Color with Claire and then yes, Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter. They've already swatched and played around with them. And I was like, well, I can't watch. I don't want like my mind made up or anything like that. Plus, we all have our own opinions, anyways. I mean, there have been pencils that I love that others don't, or there's been pencils that others absolutely adore that I think are the worst pencil in the world. Holbein. So it's always best anytime I do these to not look at anyone's videos, and I won't even look at anyone's videos till I actually do like my own full review too. So yeah, whatever anyone else has said, I haven't looked. I've seen the thumbnails and I'm like, I will look later, but gotta keep an open mind. These are getting into some pretty colors. I wonder if it'll be like kind of a similar palette, right? So those 24 count sets, it was more autumnal just because of the colors they picked, but also had like this nice, like muted thing going on, but not in a bad way. So it's kind of curious to see how this one turns out. We're on to grape. Ooh, I like that purple. That is a lovely dark purple. It is exactly like the grape Pro color, which I use a combos with Pro color, in case you were curious. Spot on. And I would know because I have gone through probably 2 grapes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've ever used a Pro color pencil, going through 2 full Pro colors is actually impressive. All right, soft violet. Ooh, I like this color. This one is a little scratchy, but I might just need to sharpen it out. But like when I go back over on top of them, they're still nice and smooth. I'm not getting any like waxy buildup or anything like that. All good signs, by the way. No, I do not consider ChromaFlow smushable. I know others do, but I do not. They just aren't as soft as a Prismacolor, and Prismacolor is the softness that I would consider something that you could actually smoosh, because you can literally smush your colors into one another. I don't have to sit there and blend. I could literally just, because of their opacity and how soft they are, I could just go right on over it and make that color. Can't really do that with the ChromaFlow. Violet Dusk. Ooh, that's a pretty purple too. It's a little more on the blue violet scale. I figured it would be even more blue violet just because of the dusk part, but still a very pretty color. Slate violet. I mean, like so far, these are kind of muted. I don't mean that in a bad way. It kind of fits with the theme of the original drawing set. But there are greens and blues we still got to get into, so don't worry. But like even the purples kind of have that nice Little muted, gentle look about them. Delft blue. One thing I do like about Derwent is they use a lot of actual pigment names, whereas other companies will come up with their own names. Derwent will do a lot where they actually use the pigment name. And by that, I mean it's the pigment that makes the color. So like if you do watercolor or acrylics, you'll recognize the pigment names. And if you don't, well, then you'll just learn something new. All right. Seeing ChromaFlow and I are just not friends. I have a couple more comparison videos to do with them. But once I do, I will probably, because I know I've been talking about this a lot, but like I said, I'm in the middle of selling my house and a lot of other ugly things that I don't need to air live. But I am in the middle of selling my house, and I do need to do my big adult coloring supply de-stash. So I'm trying to get that done here pretty soon. It's just every time I'm like, this week I'm going to film, it's been all over the place. We're all adjusting over here, but also because of the housing market out here and possibly around the nation, I don't know, but Utah's housing market is awful. It's so weird. Houses will sit for anywhere from 30 days to 120 days. Other than this random house down the street that sold in 10 days. I was like, wow, that must be nice. Mine has been on the market for almost 60 days now. So not that long, considering the price point and the average. But what sucks is I had to do a price reduction, which always stings. And then we did that price reduction and then had 3 showings back to back on one Friday. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get an offer. And then it was crickets for 2 weeks. But the problem is because like I said, at this price point and in this market, there's only so many buyers, but your showings are super random. So like I said, you could have a showing 1 week and then crickets for, 3 weeks, but you never know when you're going to get one. So you always have to keep the house clean. And I've got 3 kids, 2 huskies, and it's not a teeny house here. It's a pretty big house, which is why my next house is going to be much, much smaller. But I am cleaning floors every day, straightening up every day, dusting every day. And it's taking up so much of my time. And yesterday they called and they wanted to do a last minute showing. And of course, it was the one day I had not cleaned. And apparently my house was at the top of their list. They're in town and they were looking at houses. And so I was like, look, they've got to come back tomorrow. And I was so nervous that they wouldn't, but they agreed. And so they came back, they called Friday. And then so they came yesterday, but super early. It was a major rainstorm. So I had to drag the kids and the huskies out, wet huskies, in my car for an hour. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I had to get up at 5 and start vacuuming and making sure all the floors were clean. It was a long day, but we're supposed to hear today, or they're making an offer on whatever house they choose today. So I guess I'll find out today either way. But they're not scratchy at all. No. Keep in mind this is a smoother cardstock, but they are definitely, there's nothing scratchy. If something was scratchy, I would have told you. But they're not scratchy at all. So don't worry about that. I have no problem saying when a pencil is scratchy because it actually gives me chills up my spine. So not the problem here. But yeah, so everyone put out your good karma vibes because I would really like my house to sell today. And they're just going to make us sit here and wait. Ugh. So I'm really hoping I'll hear something this evening. And if they're not the buyers, then well, what you gonna do, right? But yeah, it's just getting tiresome constantly keeping the house clean for whenever you'll get a showing because you literally never know. All right, for green. You know, it's funny. So with the chroma flows, right? I've noticed people either are big fans of chroma flow and not Prisma, or vice versa. So I find that kind of funny. But I have found a few who are like, oh yeah, I like them both. But it also kind of goes to coloring style, right? Because your coloring style really does determine what type of pencil works best for you. I am heavy-handed, so obviously I prefer to not sit there and layer until my hand breaks. Whereas, you know, there's other people that don't mind layering, but things that are nice and soft and easy to blend, that's my type of pencil. All right. I'm like half tempted to get lazy and not fill in these boxes all the way because it just takes so much time. But also me going back and forth this way might be why you're seeing some streaks, but that's because I'm kind of just trying to fill in the box. It's not because these are scratchy. So in fact, we'll try that on these ones down here. Because this is not my permanent swatch chart. This is my temporary one, so I can put them in order. So I'll just try to fill in the box long ways. This color is pretty light, but it's actually really pretty. It's like a nice minty green color. I like that. Drink of water. And then another thing to keep in mind is swatching is literally half the battle. Now, there have been sets of pencils where I have swatched them and I could immediately tell from swatching that they were utter crap and I would never color with them. I think I've even done reviews on a few where I'm like, I couldn't even stop. Like, I couldn't even get through the swatching phase. I was like, oh, these things are making me sick. But that's very rare because swatching gives you just part of the picture. You've got to actually use the pencils. You got to try them on different papers, try them with your style. Because, like I said, we're all different with how we use pencils. Are you heavy handed? Do you prefer to layer? And then, of course, what kind of paper do you typically use your pencils on? So, you can't really just swatch and then call it a day because some pencils do better on toothy paper. Some pencils do better on smooth. Some can do both. Just depends. But then again, also your coloring style or your pressure will determine a lot. Because like Prismacolor for me work great on toothy and smooth, but that's because I'm heavier handed. All right. I am not getting a ton of dust like I do with some other soft brands of pencils, so that's a good sign. Make sure my numbers line up. Ooh, that green is nice and bright. I like that one. I always get excited over the greens, which is weird because it's not like I do a ton of florals anymore. Maybe it's just like an old habit. I like to look at the greens because I used to do florals before I started doing more portraits. So that's probably part of it. I like that one too. Light moss. This one's a little similar to the other light green one we had, which was what? Except that one was more blue leaning. So there is a difference. All right. We are on green earth. I am very curious to get to those grays though, because Anytime I see a 72 count set with more than 3 grays, I'm like, but I could be wrong. They could work out. All right, Rainforest. Oh, I like that one. That's a really nice bright green. That one you could totally tell if I didn't fill in the box. Sage Leaf. This is nice because the last, the 24 count set, like I said, I'd break it around in the fall because it really just had a fallish palette. But one thing with it was, oh, how many green, I needed more greens with it. So it's kind of nice to see how it is now. Olive Earth. And then I always love the olivey greens, but that's just a thing I have. Again, I don't know why, because I don't do a lot of florals anymore, but hey. Yeah, if I press hard, these work really nice too. Warm Earth. Looks like we're getting into our browns. It's kind of a nice color. Woodland. All right. It's been so long since I streamed and then also just sat and swatched. It's like a muscle you need to keep exercising. Swatching and streaming. I like the Black Widows. The biggest problem is it's expensive to fill the set, getting all each individual tin set, but I like Black Widows, though I tend to use them nowadays just for hair and not really just general coloring. But they're really fun. They're unique. That's the other thing. They're just a very unique pencil. And they're not crappy pencils, though, either. They're well made. It's still like just a small time operation. But then the one thing is, yes, they have open stock technically, but not in the traditional sense. Like you have to message the owner and then get them shipped, but then you pay to have them shipped all the way from Australia. So that makes it a little difficult. But if you live in Australia, you can get your hands on them pretty easy. But I still like them. I still recommend Black Widows, even though I know they're not even close to a budget pencil with, how much it costs to get all those sets. But it's 180 colors you get to play with. And they just look cool against the black wood. All right. This is yellow ochre. So yeah, we're getting into we're going to start with like the warm yellows, and then it looks like it'll get into the browns. Sepia red. Yeah, I could see the reddish undertone there. Okay, Mars orange. That's a common one in the Derwent line. Of like all their lines, I mean. I really like it though. It's nice and rusty. It's a good pumpkin orange. Sanguine. This one's really good for pumpkins too. And like fall colors. I've always liked this one. It's got that burnt orange color to it. Okay, Venetian red. Oops. Like I said, I'm trying to fill out the whole box in just one go in the same direction. It's all right if it's sloppy, because like I said, I got to redo this whole chart anyway. Terracotta. Definitely got a good selection of browns. All right, Mars Violet. Brutfuner and Color are good pencils. My only issue with those, Color, Brutfuner, and all that, one, they're white label pencils. Two, consistency. How long are they going to stick around before they just drop off the face of this earth? I get it. We're all under a budget, you know, so I totally understand that. But when it comes to pencils like that, I am a big believer that I would rather save up and get at least an artist grade, genuine artist grade, as in open stock, sold at art supply stores from names like Faber-Castell, Derwent, you know, Prismacolor, stuff like that. Because while those other sets are cheaper and some are really, really good, like Brutfuner squares were great, but look at that. Where are they now? You can go on Temu and get them, but that's about it. But that's the risk. Like if you fall in love with those cheaper sets, I guarantee they won't be around long. Color has stuck around for a little bit, but hey, Arteza did too, and where'd they go? I mean, Arteza is still around, but look at all their products and just they're slowly dwindling away. Artix is around right now, and you know, trying to come out strong, but who knows how long they'll last. So I'm kind of like, you know, yeah, these sets are always fun to get and pick up, but it's also about longevity. If you're just looking for something cheap and fun to play with in the moment, then for sure, but just don't get attached is basically what I'm saying, because honestly, a year or two from now, they may change their lineup entirely, or they'll just, you know, start discontinuing their products and just slowly fade away. And then someone else will pick right back up. And because a lot of them are white label, you're really just rebuying the same company, or the same formula. It's just looks a little different. But that's the other thing to keep in mind. That's why I always like joke that Prismacolor are by far my favorite budget artist grade colored pencil, because for me, here in the US, I should say. So before you hop in the comments, if you're watching this on replay, I'm well aware that outside of the US, they are not very budget friendly, but here in the US, I can get them for $1.12 a pencil, and they're great pencils. So to me, that is one heck of a steal. But yeah, if you don't live in the US, then I get it. A little bit pricey. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind with the budget pencils, is they will not be here 2 years from now, most of the time. All right, let's see. This is platinum. We're getting into all those grays I was kind of worried about. Just want to see how these are going to look-sees. All right, carbon gray. Not bad, although those two first grays are a little close, but let's see how the rest are. This one's called warm gray. Definitely warm. I love using these like on brickwork and rocks. especially for landscape. And then we're on to cool gray. It's a lot of gray for a 72 count set. Granite. Not bad. Just a lot of gray. Because here we are. This is taupe. Oh, I really like this color though. This actually would work really good in skin tone too. All right. Fossil gray. Yeah, the Faber Castell Black Edition. I have those. I haven't used them as much as I probably should. I got them a long time ago. But like I said, I'm going to be doing a full-on de-stash because one, I got a de-stash anyways, because when I move, I will no longer have an art studio. I'll probably have a home office / art studio like normal people do. So I'm not complaining. This is the Arctic gray. This is the Arctic. Like I said, it's a very light blue. You're not going to see it. It's very, very pale blue. It's not even like, Prisma's really light blues. This one's like might as well be white. Same with Oyster, which was what I was kind of concerned about them throwing these into the mix because I have these colors in other sets of theirs. And I was always like, oh, they're just too light. That said, this one you can see a little better, but probably not much on your side. All right, Chinese white. I did half the box black because I like to show you the opacity of it because it is such a nice opaque pencil. Plus, what's the point of swatching white right there? Let me zoom out real quick. Oops, I accidentally scrolled up on my chat, so that was my bad. Okay. Like I said, I haven't streamed in so long that I'm clearly out of practice. All right, there we go. So I kind of like what they've done here though, because this sticks really close to that 24 count set in terms of how muted the colors are. So they're not bright, right? So if you think about it, think of Prismacolor and the Prismacolor palette. It is bright, like super bright. But when you look at this one here, right, with the drawing pencils, these aren't bright. Do they have a couple bright ones? Sure, that one is bright. Maybe that one. But most of them are muted, sticking to kind of the palette they had with the 24 count. But this could actually be a good thing because there are colors in here that you will not have in your Prismacolors. Will you have something close? Yes, of course. Anything can be close enough if you make it match. But there are indeed some colors here that I already know for a fact I would not have in my Prismas. So like this one here, this one here. Yes, it's kind of close to the rosy beige, whatever, but it's not quite there. This one here, this one here. I mean, I'm spotting quite a few. So what would be cool is you could actually take a lot of the colors from this and mix them with your Prismas to add to it as well, if you think about it. Yes, there are quite a few colors in here for skin tones. I am worried though when it gets to darker skin tones. I've got this one here and a couple browns, but it'll just require some more creative layering to make a darker skin tone out of these ones. especially because I don't really have anything in between some of these darker browns. Now, if I had to say one complaint, it is way too many grays for a 72 count set. Like these two grays here are pretty much the same. So that was kind of a waste. I really hate that they put in the Arctic and the oyster ones because they are so light that they might as well be white. And like I said, if you have the Derwent Light Fast, then you are familiar with these colors right here. And while they serve a purpose in larger sets, in this set, they could have totally done something else with that. Swapped out one of these grays here because they're too close to one another. But hey, whatever. That said, it's a nice palette. It is muted though, definitely muted. But if you were to combine this with Prisma, you probably just added a good chunk. Would I say you added a full 72 count set? No, because some of these colors I definitely have in my Prismacolors, but that's the point. You could add on where you're missing, like, oh, this color actually would look good in my Prisma set too. So yeah, you could combine them with Prisma, or you could combine them with your Color Soft if you have Color Soft. But I like that they stuck with the muted because that's what the drawing pencils were in the 24 count set. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you really liked how muted they were in that 24 count set, it seems like they stuck with that theme in this one. I do want to see, like, blending wise, if I could make some fun little blends. So let's pick some colors, and I'm just going to do it on the back of my sheet here. But let's do like a purple. So we'll do this one, 2100, 2400. Nope, that's 2400. Okay, and then we will roll that into 1900. I'm just going to pick a few blends to play with just to kind of see what I can make. This one and this one are a little close to that. These are more on the brown scale, but still. Let's make something with green too. I'm kind of disappointed though after swatching them. There's really not a ton of blues, but if I were to like bring in a Prisma, I could probably make it work. I wonder. Oh, is my Prisma set still down here? Nope, it's down. It's downstairs. Because I was gonna break out a couple Prismas and blend them together. But when I do my full review, I'll actually make some blends with Prisma just so you guys can see. So let me grab these ones now. 2600. I'm just gonna make some super simple, like 3 color blends, just because I want to see if I can play around with these a little. In fact, I might even mix in, let's see, 2900. I'm gonna mix in 1610. And then usually what I like to do when I review pencils is I color a page, but also I try to color a portrait. All right, I'm gonna mute you so I can sharpen though. So just hold that thought. All right, sharpened. Let's just flip this over. I saw something about a free color family chart. Are you talking like free color family chart for these pencils? Or something else and I missed it? Because the conversation moves really fast when you're swatching pencils. So I'm going to start off light just to kind of play with these a bit and see. And then I'll try smooshing too. And they are a little dusty right now, but I'm a little bit heavier handed. I've always been a heavy-handed colorist though, so it's just my style. But it's not a big deal because there's always a pencil out there that can accommodate me. So that's great because there's so many brands of pencils out there, right? So if you're like heavy-handed, you don't have to worry about it. It's not like you'll never find a pencil. No, no. There are plenty out there, and you will find one that is like, okay, you need something that can handle your heavy-handedness. I got you. So that's one reason I like Prisma, because I can just smush them. The only thing is, if you're heavy-handed with Prisma, obviously, if you're super heavy-handed, you're going to snap those bad boys. So there's kind of a little give and take with those, but you get used to them. A lot of people that don't like Prisma, just a fun fact, I hated Prisma when I first got them, but there's actually a learning curve to Prisma that you don't realize until you actually pick one up and try to use it. And then you're like, wow, everyone makes these blend so easily. And then it turns out, well, there's a little trick to it. So I need to do a tips and tricks for Prisma because I've had a few people reach out and ask why it works for me. And then I realized, when I first got my Prismas, I hated them. Like I literally cried because they were the only pencil I really, really wanted. And then hated them when I went to use them. And I was like, what a waste of money. And then I finally figured out how to actually use them. And then I was like, oh my gosh, these are the best things ever. And now they're like the only pencil I use. I have to actually like groan to use it anything else. I'm like, oh, I have to use that Brute Fooner or that Color or even my Polychromos. Oh, what a bummer. That's great. If you did a color family chart, I'll be throwing one up, but like I said, it'll be in my type of order. But that's just because I have a particular, we all see colors differently, but also I have a particular way I like to do mine. So I've been slowly like transferring all of my swatch charts into my preferred color family order, right down to my Prismas. I've also noticed if I break them up into groups, then it's like my brain will only see them in those groups. So I have started to like not do that. They're all there, and instead I go more of a style similar to a Copic chart because I think my brain just registers colors better that way. But we're all very different in that regard too. See, now if I did my usual hard pressing, and didn't bother layering, yeah, they still blend out nicely. They're a little dustier when you press hard, but so are Prismas. These would be, I would say, more dusty than Prisma though, when I press hard on them. But like, I can slowly add layers or just blend them out and say screw it. So there you go. But I do want to grab, where is it? Okay. I am kind of curious because there's two types of blender pencils I typically use. One is a Splendor blender. The other is the Prismacolor. Do need to sharpen that one, so hang on. Okay, I'm kind of curious which one they work better with. So like if I were to take my Splendor blender down here, honestly, I haven't really found a pencil where my Splendor blender doesn't work well with. Yep, and they work really well on this one too, actually. I'm quite impressed. Look at that. This is the Prisma. So with Prisma, anytime I'm blending out with Prisma, I always start from the light and work my way in because it tends to drag the color. I'm just kind of curious if I'm going to like how this blends these out. So that's the difference. Like the Prisma blender, it's harder and it won't leave a sheen. It'll almost matte your colors, but also it does drag the color, but it'll get rid of the tooth pretty quickly too. So you have to be careful because you can really burnish fast. But that's why you have to go light to dark with your blending, because if I started over here in the blue, it would travel over. But it still blends nicely there. Let me see how this one here does with a Splenda. And the reason I like the Splendor blender is it doesn't drag the color. It just kind of smooths everything out. And I've been using the Splendor blenders way more. I use them with Prisma. I use them with polychromos. Gosh, every pencil, really. They're one of my favorite. I love the Korilynn Dash, but that one I only use with certain brands. Whereas the Splendor blender has been kind of there for everything. Unfortunately, you got to just order them from Blick. So they're not as easy to get your hands on, but yes, it's Lyra. The Lyra Splendor blender. So like, see, I put the Splendor blender on here and smoothed it out. Same thing over here, smooth that one out. This one is the Prisma. So it does smooth out nicely with the Prisma. Just remember you need to go light to dark with your Prisma blender. But it blends nicely, so that's a good start. But they do blend well. Now, granted, that's just me playing around with them right now. But it'll be interesting to see how these do when I color. But the good news is, if you think about it, not only is it muted, but this palette is still rather autumnal, don't you think? Like, it's kind of funny, but look at the colors. Like, look at all the yellows, the warm oranges, these deep plummy purples, the blues, the olivey greens. So it's almost like they really stuck with that. But in turn, that means like this will be a fun set to use for fall, similar to that 24 count set. Because with the 24 count set, that was about the only time I ever broke that thing out was the fall. So yeah, it's muted, but it still has the autumnal vibes. And I was going to star. So I'll put a star here so you know which ones are already in the old set real quick. I had a pen. This is why you don't take breaks from streaming. But I think I'll color some fall pages with these. So 6,700. I'm going to need this for my little chart anyways. 50, 90. Oh, it's right there. I was like, what the heck? I had one that was not looking good. 6,220. 6,470. It's harder because I have to sit here and find these all. 6,110. Chocolate 6,600. Ink blue 3,720. And this will be good too. 6,300. Once they start having their open stock, then you can kind of look at it and be like, oh, do I really need to buy all of them? Do I just want to like substitute with a few? 5160. Of course, that's when they have them. 6210. 5550. I know I just saw you. 1610. Just that way so you can see what was there before and everything that's new now. 5720. I mean, even their 24 count set I always felt was fun to work with. It's just if you're not into layering, and I'm not, it was kind of a pain, right? Because I'm not into layering, but to make those 24 colors work, well, I kind of had to be. So I was like, oh, do I feel like layering today? The answer is a no. But if you caught me in those rare moods, then the answer would be yes. 6510. And then, of course, they had Chinese white back in the old set. So there you go. So I don't recommend always blending with Zest It. I know a lot of people are really all over Zest It, Gamsol, and all that. If you can blend it with a pencil, blend it with a pencil. The only time I break out Zest It and all those types is if it's if I'm working on a toothy paper for one and I really need that. Or if I'm doing like actual art, but in adult coloring, I really don't like to use those. I prefer to stick to a blending pencil. Zest It at least is not as bad as inhaling Gamsol. Gamsol is do not use Gamsol unless you can open a window and you're very cautious with that one because it's a lot. Zest It at least won't take away all sense of smell, but still it's one of those things. If you can blend it with a pencil, blend it with a pencil. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but I prefer to stick away from any liquid blenders. That said, I do have, like these blending pens, the color pencil blender pens. In fact, we can use one on this one here and see how it does. Ooh, they work really nice for that. So that was that one right there. Ta-da! Look how nice and smooth that is. But yeah, like this is Finesse. It's a colored pencil blender pen. They come with a fine tip, a brush tip. But like, for example, this like one here, I'll show you, it's, a little messy there. But I can just kind of go on over it. And of course, you really should clean off the tips of those, but as you can see, it's nice and smoothed out. That said, I really don't use these a ton either. And of course, wax-based. If you go and use this on a polychromos, it will work. I've tested it, but it's not as good. But yeah, I tend to stick to my pencils as opposed to anything else. And just while we're on the topic of liquid blending, do not, because I have had a lot of people comment that they do this or ask if they can do it, putting Gamsol or Zest It into one of these bad boys. Please, please, please never ever do that. Not only will you release way more than you need, but you're basically guaranteeing that you're going to inhale a ton of toxic stuff that you don't need to inhale. So just please keep that in mind. Because I have seen that comment a lot, and I'm like, no, please halt. But yeah, honestly, you can blend just as fine with any pencil. Yeah, if you use a lot of tooth, I know a lot of people stick to liquid blending, but here's the thing. With a lot of tooth, you can still break down the tooth with these blenders, pencil blenders. The Prismacolor will be better, but also the Derwent burnishing pencil if you're really just going to get rid of the tooth. But it just depends on your goal, I guess. Derwent's, because they have a blender and a burnishing pencil, and they come in a set. I'm not the biggest fan of the Derwent blending pencils and burnishing pencil lines, but that's just me. But you can use those. The burnisher, though, will definitely get rid of your tooth. I just don't like them. I prefer the Prismacolor and the Splendor blender. That's just my opinion, though. But yeah, this is interesting. I'm very interested to play around with these this week. I will probably have a review up next week. The thing is like I said, I never know when my house is going to have a showing. Because like I said, I went 2 weeks and then had a last minute showing and was scrambling around, and then I have to get all my streaming stuff back out because everything's packed away. I have to look like I don't live here, which is really hard to do with 3 kids and 2 dogs, but whatever. It will sell one day, hopefully, maybe soon-ish. So we will see. But next week, I will be streaming. I was going to stream this last week and I didn't get around to it. But last year we did pumpkin combos with Prismacolor. this week or this month, we're going to do pumpkin color combos with Derwent ink tints because that is what you guys voted for. So I'll be streaming that next Sunday as long as I don't have a showing that catches me off guard. It will sell. It will sell. I really want the people that came yesterday to buy it though. They were here for a whole hour, so they obviously liked it enough to chill around for an hour. At least that's what I'm telling myself. But yes, we'll be doing ink tense combos for pumpkins next week, and I might even carry it over and do like leaves and whatnot. So let me know in the comments below after the stream, not in the chat because I won't see that. But in the comments below, let me know what you want to see in the review of the 72 count set. If there's something specific you want addressed, I always, do the usual. I color with them. I have my whole testing worksheet that you can see if you look at any of my pencil reviews. But if there's anything very specific to this set that you want in the review, please do leave that in the comments below. It kind of helps me for those little nuanced things that don't necessarily apply to all pencils or just specifically you're curious. So yeah, put that in there and I will make sure if it's something reasonable I can do. And then you can also leave in the comments what you want to see these compared to. Obviously, I will already compare them to Prisma, so you don't need to ask that. But if there's a different pencil line you would like to see, you can throw that in there. And I'm also going to work on seeing where I could add these into my Prismacolor line of pencils where I'm missing like a certain color, just for funsies. That won't be in the review. That'll just be something I do on the side. But I am going to let you all go. Thanks for hanging out while we swatched these. I'm excited. Now I want to go play with them and see what I can do. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys very soon. So yeah, until next time, everyone, take care. Bye now.